Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Welcome to this special edition of the program titled Chiropractic Spotlights. Meet America's leading chiropractors. I'm Mark Imperial. My next guest is Dr. Andrea Esau from Roswell, Georgia. Dr. Esau, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Can you kind of give us a little introduction, a brief introduction, and the name of your practice? Tell us a little bit about the type of clients that you serve.
Yeah, absolutely. So my practice name is Gentle Hands Healing Center, and I actually work with a lot of kids, and especially with kind of my, niche within a niche would actually be sensitive kids. So I know that there's been a lot of talk, like within the highly sensitive person and all of that. And I feel like people are starting to look, especially when it comes to their children, for a really gentle way of getting the chiropractic in so that they still get all the benefits, but in a softer, less startling way. And so I see about 40% children under the age of 12, and then, a sprinkling of everybody else, a lot of moms, a lot of dads, and then athletes, teenagers, kind of a little bit of everyone. So.
Right on. That's fascinating. Can you tell me a little bit more about that specialty, especially with sensitive kids, and how that relates to chiropractic? What is their biggest concern?
So a lot of kids these days are struggling with, and honestly, I find it for adults as well, but there's a lot of anxiety, depression. Some kids will have difficulty concentrating. A lot of kids actually will also have difficulties being touched, which is always an interesting one as a chiropractor because, that's what I do. But I would say a lot of it is for anxiety. And where often the mom will come in and say, there's just, there's this issue. Sometimes it's also with sleep where the kids just aren't able to sleep because they get overwhelmed. But I would say a lot is to do with either, like my kid just doesn't seem happy and they're always worried and they're 7 and it's just something's not right. And, and it's more so the parent will tell me these things. And so that tends to be the people that show up a lot.
That's really interesting because a lot of people, when they think of chiropractic, a lot of folks think that you see a chiropractor about pain. And now hearing your specialty with children, can you tell me a little bit about that and like why chiropractic is good for children as well?
Right. So it's, the purpose of chiropractic is to increase function, right? To increase the function of the nervous system and to increase proprioception through the joints and all of that, right? And so it's, and for adults, now a lot of kids, I feel like, especially with the rise in technology, that a lot of younger kids are also having pain in ways that we perhaps haven't seen in the past. But it doesn't necessarily have to be pain-based. So within kids, there's actually been research that has been done that has showed, benefits and or possible benefits, because you know how research goes, right? It's like, this study has shown this, but we need more research. But there's been a lot of studies done on chiropractic and how it can help with asthma, with colic, with anxiety and depression, with attention or concentration, immune system function, and there's a bunch others, but I'm forgetting what some of them are right now. So it's really this, and also with sleep, that's a big one too. I have a lot of people who will come in because their kids don't sleep at night, or even bedwetting is a common one too. And it's, so there's this wide range of things that are well outside of pain that research has demonstrated can still help with. And from a patient perspective, there's a lot of stories of people who have had really amazing changes and results, and for some people it's been life-changing.
So I see that it's about a lot more than just pain, and so you can see there's a lot of information still lacking in the public about chiropractic, and I'm sure there are a lot of myths and misconceptions too. What is like one of the biggest myths or misconceptions you've heard people think about chiropractic?
Let me see. It's probably one of the ones probably has to do with actually the education process, because a lot of people don't realize, like a lot of people think of chiropractic like as far as education, time and intensity put in, think that it's maybe like a 1 or 2 year program instead of that, instead of, the 8 that it takes to do it, right? So I would say that's one. I think another really common misconception that I find a lot, and especially when it comes to talking about adjusting kids, is people have in their head this very, classic, forceful movement, within the neck. And they're thinking, they get kind of scared, right? And they're like, oh, no, don't do that to my kid or my baby. Or, and it's like, well, obviously, of course, no one would, there's no school in the country that teaches that that's how you adjust kids, right? And, with babies especially, it's like it's all very gentle, no matter who you see. And then again, with how I've taken chiropractic and made it that much more gentle, where there's a lot less of the snap, crackle, pop, so to speak, where there's really sometimes hardly any at all. And I think people too find that that's, I had no idea that there were other options out there for those who don't like a more forceful adjustment. So I think those are kind of the biggest misconceptions that I've come across.
Dr. Esau, how did you get started? Like, what inspired you to become a DC?
You know what? It's I was one of those kids whose life was turned completely upside down in the best possible way through getting adjusted. So in starting when I would have been maybe 13, I started having, and it's interesting because I had back pain, very classic chiropractic story, right? But I had severe debilitating back pain. And, and it lasted, and it was year after year after year, right? And because I saw my first chiropractor when I was 17. So it had been, quite a few years, and it was just getting progressively worse. And I started having, and it was terrible. Like I cried every morning when I had to go to school because I was so miserable. And, and then I started having serious migraines, and then I started having heart arrhythmias. And, my mom brought me to every doctor and every specialist. And I'm actually originally from Canada, so this was when I was up there. And she brought me, basically, anywhere to, because she was trying so hard to have me not be miserable all the time and in pain. And she's like, this is not normal. Like, teenagers and young people, like, it's not supposed to be like this, and anyways, and so it was, I had more or less actually probably given up hope, but thankfully my parents had not. I don't think that is potentially even in my mom's vocabulary. Like giving up is just not in her nature. And so finally, she ended up talking with my aunt, who we lived near Winnipeg, Manitoba, which is central Canada, and she ended up talking to my aunt in Toronto. And my aunt was like, you know what, like, I've been seeing this chiropractor here, and why don't I ask him? Maybe he knows someone near you guys that you could go see. Well, anyways, that's how we ended up at my first chiropractor. And probably it was maybe about 2 months in, and, and my mom was committed. I mean, we got to the chiropractor. It was an hour and a quarter drive to get there. And we got there at 7:30, 3 days a week. And then she'd have us like back where, in the town that we lived in, and at school before 9. So it was like a commitment. And my younger sister would come with too, because, if we were going, then everyone had to go, right? And anyways, and we were about like 2 or 3 months into care, and all of a sudden I remember sitting in her office waiting for my adjustment, and it felt like a boulder had gotten lifted off my shoulder, and for the first time in years I was like I can breathe, like I kind of feel almost okay. And we went home later that day, and I had come home from school at the end of the day, and we were in the kitchen, and my mom had said something funny, and I started laughing. And her and my sister both started crying, and I was like, I don't understand, like, what is going on? And my mom was like, well, this is the first time we've seen you smile or laugh in years. And so it was just, and kind of from then on, it was like, okay, this is, this is something for my life that I have to do. And then as I got a little bit older, I started thinking about chiropractic, and it took me some time, and my chiropractor actually had to work pretty hard to convince me that I was smart enough to go to chiropractic school, because I had had such poor grades in high school, because I felt terrible, right? And she's like, no, like, you really are, you can do it. And anyway, so then that kind of set me on a whole new path in so many ways. So that's the long version.
That is terrific. So chiropractic has really been a huge part of your life. So it's really natural to see why you would be drawn to do this as a profession.
Absolutely. And it's, and I've had my why when I started school was, it's like, okay, why am I doing this? Because going through school is hard, and, running a business is hard sometimes. And it's like, you have to know why you're doing it. Like, what are you holding on to that keeps you going on the tough days, right? And my why, and when I set out to do this, over 10 years ago, I had said, if I can help one person as much as I was helped, it would all be worth it. And so I keep that in the back of my head because, obviously I have this great honor of helping a lot of people. So,
wow, that's terrific. Dr. Andrea, for folks listening, how can people find out more about you and about your practice? How do they reach you?
Yeah, so I have a website, so it's gentlehandshealing.com. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, which is at Gentle Hands Healing. And yeah, those would be the easiest.
Dr. Andrea, this has been terrific. I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing with our listeners today. And I wish you continued success for you, your practice, and for all of your patients and clients.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for having me. It's been very exciting, so I've had fun.
I'm Mark Imperial, and this is the program spotlighting noteworthy professionals, experts, and business owners from around the world and in your town. If you know a great business or professional that we should feature on the program, I'd like to hear from you. You could nominate them by emailing me at radio@markimperial.com. Once again, that's radio@markimperial.com. In this next segment, our home stretch, I've got a special treat for you. If you're a business owner or professional, or if you aspire to be one, for over 7 years, I've been interviewing leading experts and business celebrities and sharing their secrets to success with you. From my first show, Entrepreneur's Edge, to Game Changers Radio, to Mad Rocket Business, all the way to Remarkable Radio and this program today, in this home stretch, I'm bringing you a flashback to one of my most popular episodes, covering how to attract clients magnetically using only the power of words and without costly branding. So enjoy this very special edition home stretch, and here we go.
Now, get the edge. Here are Mark and Tom.
Hey, welcome to the show. It's Mark Imperial, another power thinking hour here at Entrepreneur's Edge.
Mark, this is Tom Rebar, and it is time for all the capitalists and all of the entrepreneurs and the self-employed people and the professionals in private practice and all the sales and marketing pros to come out of the woodwork and put their feet up and join together and learn for an hour.
That's right. So welcome back, everybody. And we've got a terrific show. We're recapping a fantastic week that we had here at Entrepreneur's Edge. We just had our Entrepreneur's Edge live event last Wednesday, and boy, it was a hoot. The party was jumping. I'm telling you, they almost had to kick us out of that hotel.
They did, and there's nothing like talking about advertising and copywriting that gets people out of their chairs, because once you start talking about that, people realize that even if you thought you knew everything there was to know about it, you realize there's more to learn and more to still learn.
Yeah, the place was absolutely on fire. We had Conrad Hall and Ken Schreiber join us in speaking on copywriting and writing the words that sell your business. What better way to get to the bullet points of that than to recap what we talked about at Wednesday's event?
Go for it.
And you know what? In fact, if you missed it, you really missed a hugely valuable opportunity to boost your response. Because I'm talking about, we talked about headlines and postcard and copy that got 4 to 5 times the response of another control. So that's a 400 to 500% increase by just changing the words on the paper. How many folks don't think about that?
A whole bunch.
So we started out, one of our guest speakers, Ken Schreiber, he was talking about lead generation and the minute differences about generating leads with your copy as opposed to like using sales conversion. Now, one of the key points and takeaways he talked about, he started out, check this out. The first thing he said when he got up on the stage is he said, "Who here wants a surefire way to get new customers or prospects without any marketing cost?" And all the hands went up, right?
Mine went up.
Yeah.
I was the first one.
Now, guess what? He says that was the first lesson in lead generation. You are trying to identify exactly with the person what is it that they want. So if you have the right market, the right list, and then you give them that question, who wants this solution? And you're talking directly at a person, and they raise their hand and identify. That is it. That's as simple as that. And then you make them an offer that they just can't refuse.
Because all you want is to find out who those people are who are willing to raise their hand.
Yeah, and you could adapt that into any business type that you can. Now look at this. Another key is speaking directly at that target person. If you get a list, if you're doing a mailing, a postcard mailing, and you know who that customer is you're looking for, you identify it and you speak directly at their problems. You have to identify, and we talked about this. I call it the hidden benefit, because you have to you think about your customer and think of all the problems that they have in their lives, because what you are is you're a problem solver. That brings up another point. A lot of business owners, a lot of businesses out there, they make the mistake, and we had some folks talk about this in the room as well. I say, what is your ad about? What was the message you put in your marketing? And they said, well, a discount, a discount or percentage off. And the reality is that they're trying to sell their product directly. And we say that kind of hurts your response, because when you try to sell your product directly, the only people that are responding are those that are ready to buy like your widget or your thing right now.
At that immediate point in time.
So it's about transcending timing. So we're going to be back after this break and continue, because we've got a lot of nuggets that came out of that event on writing words that sell. BusinessEdgeRadio.com. Go to the website, get our free gift, and we'll be right back after this.
Stay with us.
Business owners and entrepreneurs. Once again, Here's Mark and Tom.
Hey, welcome back to your Power Thinking Hour for entrepreneurs and business owners. It's Mark Imperial.
This is Tom Rebar. Hey, Mark, let's go back to that the story you were telling right before the break about the person who was going for the jugular and trying to make the big sale right out of the gate. Let's try to make sure we bring the loop fully closed there. What do you do to get around that?
Well, let's see. As I mentioned, a lot of business owners, they think, they're not, they're in the mindset of I got to sell my thing. So they're focused on how can I sell my thing? Let me present my product or my service and let me give a discount or a coupon. That's like the knee-jerk reaction to what they're offering.
And then when people don't buy, right away they think, my price is still too high, so they get into this headset of, now I got a further discount.
Yeah, they're focusing on the wrong thing, and it's because they get a low response rate. But our answer to that, what we know from testing, is that the low response rate is because you're not transcending timing. You're making an offer for people that are ready to buy right that minute. But then when somebody is in the buying cycle, but they're not just quite ready to buy yet, and, maybe a month down the road, they forgot all about you. You're only picking up the immediate buyers. You have to find a way to transcend the timing, and we do that with lead generation.
And it has nothing to do with price.
That's right.
Get price out of your head that it's not that your price is too high.
That's often the last thing to even consider is the price. I mean, the example that I'm going to give you and for the listeners is we had a terrific home remodeling company in the audience and asked us how do we directly link what we're talking about here at the event to his type of business. I said, is there a business that feels like they don't know how to link this lead generation strategy to theirs? And then he raised his hand and he said, home remodeling. What do I do? And I said, what are you doing currently to get your business? He said, I did a mailing. What was the offer on the mailing? It was a discount of some sort. And we told him the same thing. You're selling a discount. You're only going to pick up the buyers ready to buy now. And then he said, well, what's the alternative? Well, the alternative is you want to find people that may not just be thinking about buying right now, but maybe they're already in their head. You know what? 6 months from now, a year from now, I know I'm going to have a move. How are you going to get those people to identify themselves so you can continue to stay in front of them? Well, we said, why don't you offer a report called, the 7 deadly traps and how to avoid them, how to save blah, blah, blah on your remodeling costs, how to get how to remodel your kitchen, your home or whatever, and save the maximum. 7 deadly traps, a report that is going to be useful to that prospect. That way, even if it's 6 months or a year from now that they're thinking about the move, they still want that free report. That little trick alone increases the response 4 or 5 times. Easily.
And you could tell that this fella, because I was sitting across the room from him, he had a big smile on his face as soon as you started to unveil that story, because you could tell right away he got it. Mm-hmm. And head kind of went back into oh, that makes sense right away to him. So
that's right.
He was a very smart person.
Yeah. So, back to the list of what Ken Schreiber was speaking about. He's, another nugget was speak directly at him. Who is it that you're mailing to and what is their direct problem? The next point is everyone's favorite radio station besides WIND is WIIFM. What's in it for me?
Exactly.
So that, literally the headline or the message that you put on your mailing pieces has to address directly at them because it has to pass that test. Conrad Hall mentioned this, the so what test. You read your headline, whatever you consider your headline, and run it through your own head and say, okay, I read something and so what? Is it going to make you say so what, or is it going to intrigue you to read further?
Well, in fact, he even suggests to do that for every one of your bullets. When you put the bullet there, just read it out loud and say, now, so what? What is that person going to answer if they read it and you say, so what, to give yourself a chance to substantiate that bullet in your head?
Yes, that's right.
Is it a worthy bullet?
Yep. And, I have a litmus test actually for you. Let's first of all, let's wrap up with what Conrad was talking about before we even go into the litmus test on headlines. But, Conrad has a great description for copywriting. He said it's the art of using words to create action. Now, think about that. The art of using words to create action. How many folks really think of their advertising in that way? The most of the time I see people doing an advertisement, it's like the name of their company or their logo. How does that create any action?
One of the One of the best testimonials for last night was I brought my assistant along to your summit. He is just beginning to think about the art of copywriting. And when we left, he said that was one of the best meetings he's ever been to. And he got more notes in a short period of time about how to write copy than he ever thought he would by coming along last night.
It's incredible. And, a lot of the stuff that, many of our pros in Mastermind, for example, we take it for granted because we've been so immersed in this kind of marketing, but it's eye-opening for many. For example, one of the keys, the big keys that was huge for everyone in the room was when Ken Schreiber described. And remember the headline, who else here wants to know how to acquire new customers and prospects without any acquisition cost? Right. Now, how do you do it without acquisition cost? Well, if you were at the summit, I don't have enough time in the next 4 minutes to tell you, but you can do, it was a brilliant strategy he had about liquidating your marketing costs. Mm-hmm. And so you have to be at Entrepreneur's Edge live events. And these are the kind of things that we talk about. So, this is probably the best time ever to give a plug for the next live event. Make sure you go to Business Edge Live or businessedgeradio.com, click on the live events tab, and you're going to find the next meeting in Madison, the next meeting in Green Bay, and the next meeting in Oak Brook. Hey, we've only got about a minute here, and I want to talk about one bullet. I have about 12 here.
Go ahead.
But let's talk about the headline, because what is the headline? The headline of your ad is the ad for your ad. Does that make sense? And what is the only job of the headline?
The only job of the headline is to shout it out and get somebody to be interested in taking the next step, which is to read what else is there.
Read the next line, absolutely. And it's the most valuable real estate on your ad or your postcard or your mailing. And what do most companies inadvertently waste in that space? What do they do in that space instead?
How many people put the name of their company or their logo up at the top of the ad or the top of their website, and then they wonder why nobody's reading it? It's because they never had a headline there.
Hey, in the wrap-up, I'm going to give my litmus test for great headlines for all the listeners. After the break, Tom Apicella from Think Spaces in Naperville, Illinois, will be joining us to give us his tips, tricks, and secrets for furnishing your office. We'll be right back. BusinessEdgeRadio.com.
We'll be here. Stay with us. BusinessEdgeRadio.com for all the events.
Hey, we're back. It's Mark Imperial.
And this is Tom Rebar. We are in the home stretch again. Mark, I can't believe another week has gone by so fast.
That's right. Hey, we're back here with Tom Apicella from Think Spaces in Naperville, Illinois. Hey, Tom, I wanted to ask you just recently joined our mastermind group here at Entrepreneur's Edge. Can you tell me what drew you to the group and what you're getting out of it so far?
Well, what drew me to the mastermind group is, I want to have other like-minded entrepreneurs and people that I can basically bounce ideas off of, talk about my business to help expand it. Because as a lot of people know, there's a lot of businesses in one business that you can extrapolate from. So just having that, and then it's also, for accountability when you come up with new strategies and ideas, there's some accountability because they're going to ask you, well, what did you do with what you said you were going to do with last month?
Yeah.
And, action is the way to make things happen in business.
That's terrific. And now for the folks listening, whether they're a property manager or a business owner looking to move or improve their spaces, how can they get a hold of you for your information?
You can go to thinkspaces.net and you can fill out one of our interior design contact forms, or there's a phone number on there that you can call, 630-324-4598.
Tom, it was terrific having you on the show. Thank you for coming out today.
Thanks for having me, guys. Enjoy the show.
Terrific. Thank you. Tom, we're on the home stretch now.
We are. I can't believe it.
Now, I promised a litmus test for people to test whether their headlines are any good.
So give them.
All right, here it is. Now, this is sort of like the classified test, if you think of like a classified ad. And what are the classified ads all about? It's usually a small, tiny little ad, right?
Very small.
With just, you don't have enough room to put anything but a blurb and a call to action, a CTA, like a phone number, right?
That's exactly right.
So what you do is you take whatever you think is your headline, and then you neuter out everything else and just put your your phone number or whatever your response mechanism is under it. And if the two make sense and entice you to move forward, like, let me give you an example. What do most people use as their headline that's wrong? And we talk about this a lot. The company name,
and maybe a logo.
So let's look at the litmus test. A to Z painting, phone number. Now, is that entice you to take any action?
So who'd call with A to Z painting and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9?
That's right. There's no words that cause action. Now, what if the headline, let me think just off of the top of my head here. Let's use an example for a bowling alley, okay? Something weird. Now, what if the headline said how to bowl a 300 every time and then a phone number? Now, that causes you a little bit more enticement to call that number.
Sure would.
So there's a difference between that's the litmus test. Take your headline and put just the headline and the phone number or response mechanism. And is that enough to make somebody take some action? That's the litmus test.
Great test.
So that makes every word count.
Hopefully nobody just puts that in an ad, a headline and a phone number. It'd be nice to have a little more copy than that. But I understand what the litmus test is.
Yes, absolutely. So that's what we talked about. And it's about all the time we had to talk about today was headlines, but It's the most important piece. What else do we know about headlines? Headlines are the most important part of the ad. You remember at the event, I gave you 3 headlines that were tested. And I'll tell you what, let's do the test right now. One of the headlines got 5 times the response of the other 2. Was it headline A, I've never been able to get a good portrait of my child until now? Or B, finally a children's portrait worth more than the paper it's printed on? Or C, the best children's portrait at the right price guaranteed? We did this test. People raised their hand. The room was about split. But the answer is B. And again, we said, what's the reason why? Everyone gave reasons that they thought why B won. But the truth is, it doesn't matter. You just have to test.
And everybody's afraid to test.
And guess what? They didn't change any other part of the ad.
Customer.
Just the headline.
Hey, go out to businessedgeradio.com. We have Wayne Brightbath coming this next month in March up in Green Bay and Madison. He's going to talk about business use of LinkedIn. Unbelievable ideas. So come and see us.
See you later. Hey, it's Mark Imperial. I hope you enjoyed those highlights. Again, if you know a professional or business that we should feature on the show, you could nominate them by emailing me at radio@markimperial.com. One more time, that's radio@markimperial.com. Until next time, this is Mark Imperial. Make it a remarkable week. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.